All right, guys. Yes, that's for some more time on this Pokemon thing, and I think we're gonna do a little bit here. Um, so I don't have a plan. We're gonna do kind of what we did in the study group, where I just kind of make stuff up as we go. The only difference is I don't have you guys to give me ideas, so I'll try to be thinking out loud and talk through why I make the decisions that I make, and let's try to make some stuff. Okay, for about 20, 30 minutes, and we'll be using these classes in our study group tomorrow, so that'll be fun. All right, let's review what we have so far. A Pokemon Demigod keeps track of all the Pokemon I've saved in this array. Has a nice little reader for that array. Is able to create Pokemon, which is the same thing as just making a new one, but also saving it. All right. An individual has the following readers and writers: a name, a type, and trainer. So I can get .name, .type, and .trainer. I can always also set .name equals, .type equals, and .trainer equals. And then gender, just a reader. No change in it for the Pokemon. All right. When I initialize a Pokemon, I initialize with a type, a name, and a gender. Those three things are given to instance variables so that they are saved inside that instance, so an individual remembers what information makes it up. We're going to start out with a trainer as nil, and this owner thing was just a question, and we're going to delete it because we're not going to use it. Oh, also, fair notice, I'm using this new keyboard today. It's probably going to be kind of slow. Probably a lot of typos. If it gets too bad, I'll switch over, but I need the practice, so I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens. Anyway, so. Alright, I'll save this. Okay, and so that's what our Pokemon looks like, and our trainer now. All right, looks like we're not keeping track of all trainers. We definitely could, probably want to, but we'll do it as we need to. Our individual trainer has a reader, and a reader only for name and age. So I can get name and age, I can't change it. I have a reader and a writer for experience in Pokemon, so I can get and set Pokemon and experience. Types of data, right? Name, age, and experience are coming in as a string, a number, and a symbol is what I used. Now, there's nothing making that be a symbol, but that's what I kind of decided to do when I was testing it in World. Okay. And we can do something fun there too. I'm actually might try to do some more advanced stuff. It's not that it's advanced; it's that it's just the reason I want to do it is show you guys that you can, again, if you have a problem, figure out how to solve the problem. Like you guys know enough at this point, you can actually do some cool stuff. So I want you to push yourself and try to do that stuff rather than just copying boilerplate, right? So we'll talk about it. Anyway, so for now, experience is just some symbol that comes in. We might make it a little bit more meaningful later. Pokemon, all right, so this Pokemon array, this is how we specify which Pokemon belongs to an individual, right? It's an instance method, so it's Pokemon that belong to a single individual, right? Cool. Um, cool. We might actually do some refactoring on this later, but for now, let's keep it the way it is. All right. Very cool. So what do we want to do? Let's see. We'll do the refactoring thing last. I want to do some other stuff first. So let's go ahead and start writing some code that like lets me actually do stuff, right? So we can run away, we can catch a Pokemon, but this is actually the action of like a successfully catching a Pokemon. But as we all know, catching a Pokemon is a little bit more intense than that. So maybe let me make sure the relationships all exist. So my Pokemon has a trainer. The way that I add a trainer to my Pokemon is by catching it. Okay. I can also trade Pokemon I already have. All right. I can set a Pokemon free. Let's do that. All right. So we think about the functionality we want. Set free. All right. Is that something a trainer does or Pokemon does? Well, unless a Pokemon escapes, and we don't really like to think of Pokemon wanting to escape because then the whole game becomes like kind of immoral. But we're not going to do that. We're going to just say, you know what? The Pokemons don't want to escape, but they can be set free. And the trainer would be the one to do that, right? So it's an action to be done by the individual trainer. Therefore, because it's an individual and it's an instance method, because it's the trainer, we're going to put it in the trainer class. We're going to say set free. We're going to take in a Pokemon. Okay? All right, so what do we want to do? Well, first of all, I want to make sure that the Pokemon that we're trying to set free is actually owned by the trainer. All right, so let's make a little helper method then, right? Actually, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to write code that doesn't exist. And I know I've talked about this before, but it's actually pretty cool. So what do I want to do in set free? I want to say, I'm going to write some pseudocode out, and then we're going to make that work. So I'm going to say if the owner owns the Pokemon passed in. So if the owner owns it, we're going to remove the Pokemon from the owner array, from the owner's Pokemon array, right? And we're going to um, change our Pokemon's owner instance variable to no. All right. So now I'm going to write some code, and I might not write all of it here. I might write out some methods that's going to help me later. So if the owner owns the Pokemon passed in, so if self dot owns Pokemon question mark. So I'm going to say, you know what? I want to write a method that answers this question for me. Do I own a Pokemon? So if I own that Pokemon, now I'm going to continue writing this code in set free as if self.owns Pokemon is a method that already exists and it works. All right. So I'm going to pretend that everything works just fine. This is actually a really cool way to write code, right? Because yeah, obviously this code won't work until I write owns Pokemon, but by writing a method that doesn't yet exist, it lets me focus on the overall problem rather than getting lost in the weeds of how do I check to see if the Pokemon is actually owned. And um, it also gives me a game plan moving forward, right? So I can write out the big game plan using method names that don't exist yet. And now I know to make set free work, all I have to do is write owns Pokemon and I'm good to go. So it inherently breaks my problem down into small problems, which are easier to solve because they're smaller. And it gives me a game plan on how to solve the big problem because all I have to do is solve all of my small problems, and then theoretically, when my small problems are all solved, the big problem will be solved, right? So I want to set Pokemon free. If I own that Pokemon, I want to do it. And if I don't own the Pokemon, let's go ahead and say, let's do some error stuff. So this is probably something you haven't seen yet, so I'm going to throw a new argument error. Throw argument. I've been doing this in Python a lot, so I might mess this up. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be argument error.new. And you can't set free a Pokemon that you do not own. Remember what I said about this keyboard? All right. All right, cool. So I'll throw a new argument error. All right. Very cool. And what's the point of errors? There are a few things that's good about errors. I think number one that's good about errors is it breaks my code at this point if they don't catch the error. So it forces someone to catch the error. Okay. So the other programmer that's going to use our set free method, they should know that it's a dangerous method. It could potentially throw an error. And so they need to try to catch this error if they don't want their program to break. So it forces everyone using my code to have good practices. And it also jumps up the stack, right? And we'll talk about that later. But for right now, I'm just getting used to the syntax, right? And this is just like when you have a no method error, right? Ruby does the same kind of stuff. So I'm making my own error that I'm throwing, saying I want the code to break if they try to set free a Pokemon that they don't own. All right, cool. So if I own the Pokemon, what do I want to do? Remove the Pokemon from the owner's Pokemon array and change our Pokemon's owner instance variable to nil. All right, so Poke.owner equals my goodness, equals nil. All right, and then self dot Pokemon dot or equals. And do I have a Pokemon equals method? I do. So self dot Pokemon equals self dot Pokemon dot select, and I'm going to select only the Pokemon which are not equal to Poke to make sure that Poke is not in my new Pokemon array. So I'm doing these two things, and I'm doing it only if the owner owns it. Otherwise, I'm going to throw an error. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's try it. Run the code. No, I'm not. I'm going to say Ruby world.rb. Very cool. All right, and eventually this is going to run. Mm, very cool. All right, so do I own a Pokemon yet? I don't think so. What? Oh, it's a trainer. All right, no. Let's add some code there. Start off with me owning it. All right. And you know what I want to do actually real quick? We know it's going to be trainers and Pokemon. So I'm going to change this method from catch Pokemon just to catch. Because I don't think it's necessary to say catch Pokemon because we all know what we're catching. All right. I like that better. So I'm going to say Micah.catch. And I want to catch P1, which is Arcanine. Very cool. Start with P1. And now I want to run this again and make sure that I can properly set P1 free. All right. I'm slowly getting the hang of this keyboard. Very slowly though. This is only day 3. So, all right. Anyway, all right. P1. P1.owner is most certainly. Gosh darn it. P1.trainer is definitely Micah. There we go. Micah.Pokemon.map to. Actually, you know what? Let's do map the fun way. Colon ampersand. No, that's not ampersand. Ampersand. Nope, not that one either. Nope. Where is it? There we go. And it's ampersand colon. Okay. And I'll say name. Interesting. The Pokemon not have name? Oh, it just has a type. That's why. I didn't give it a name. Okay, I was getting worried. Let's map it to type. There we go. Okay, cool. So I had the Pokemon. The Pokemon knows about me. So I'm going to say Micah.free. Did I call it free Pokemon? I really hope not. Set free. Let's just say free. I like that way better. Micah.free. Actually, you know what? Set free is probably better. Makes more sense. Set free. P1. Error. Undefined method owns Pokemon. Did I never write that and I tried to test it? That's hilarious. Okay. Let's write our method own Pokemon. Okay, right? And so now I do know exactly what I need to do, right? Even if I forgot to write all the methods, right, to make this work, the code tells me, right? Hey, dude, you did not write owns Pokemon. All right, so let's go ahead and write that method. All right, and I called the name with a question mark, which indicates that the return value should be a Boolean, okay? So it's going to get a Pokemon, okay? All right, and I have to decide whether I own it. Well, does my self.Pokemon array include P? That's probably good for me. And even though this is a one-liner, it's actually not a bad idea to put it in a method anyway because this reads a lot nicer. It's very clear what I'm doing. If myself owns the Pokemon of the Pokemon that's passed in, which should be Poke, right? That variable, right? So if I own this Pokemon, then do this stuff. Otherwise, throw an error, right? So it's just a little bit clearer. All right, cool. Let's try it again. Oh my goodness, I keep clicking delete, so enter. All right. All right, very cool. So, Micah.Pokemon.map to, and again, type. All right, and P1.trainer. Very cool. And Micah.set free P1. My goodness. All right, let's do this. Undefined method Pokemon for trainer. And this is a keyboard error. Sorry, guys. Self.Pokemon. Pokemon. Oh my goodness. Pokemon. Okay. Very cool. God, this is literally painful for me. The power of getting good at typing is astronomical. I feel like I just got hit by a card. I'm trying to run a mile. All right, so let's run it again. Very cool. Binding Pry. I'm not going to do the test thing later that we did before. I also had people over tonight, so there might be other reasons that I'm a little bit slower than usual. Okay, so Micah dot set free, right? And I'm going to set free P1. My goodness, I swear to God, what happened just then? What was that? Black magic. All right. Okay, what happened? Undefined method owner equals. All right, very cool, very cool, cool, perfect. Why not? Did I say owner again? I was saying owner. Trainer. Poke has trainers. Trainers. Okay. Trainer. Trainer distance to nil. All right, let's do this thing. All right. Snap out of it. Exit. Enter. All right. Enter. All right. Micah dot set free of P1. There we go. Now Micah dot Pokemon empty array. Perfect. P1 dot trainer. No, perfect. Okay, so set free works finally. All right. One more thing. Let's write some code that that makes this catch thing more like better. So when an owner tries to catch a Pokemon, right? It's not always going to be successful. We don't want anyone just to call catch on any Pokemon because it's 100% success rate. We don't want that. So I'm going to get rid of that method. Now we still want it, but we don't want people to be able to call it because that's cheating. We want them to actually catch the Pokemon for real. So I'm going to make it a private method. Private stops people from calling it. Only my class. Uh-oh. And I did something really dumb. So I have to do all of this. Oh my goodness. Okay. I swear to God, I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. All right. So, catch is 100% accurate. Okay. We don't want anybody to call it except for us inside of this class. We don't want someone to have a 100% catch rate whenever they want with a Pokemon. I make it private, and I paste it instead of cutting. I paste it. Thank you. I paste that right here. Okay. And now the only person that can call this catch method is me inside of this class because it's in private. So I can never say like Micah.catch and pass in a Pokemon. It will not allow me to do it. Actually, you know what? Let me prove it. Let me show you what happens when you try to do it. All right? If you don't believe me, buckle in, folks. All right. So Micah. Oh, there we go. I already have it. Private method catch called for trainer. No method error. On world.rb line 8. I tried to catch Arcanine. Right? I tried to get Arcanine using the catch method, and that is now a private method. I cannot call Micah.catch. I can only call it inside of the trainer object. I can't even call it from inside a Pokemon. The only place I can call catch is somewhere in between this class and this end. Only other methods can call catch. And this is great because now I can write a method that actually simulates catching something where there's probability involved. And this will only be if the probability deems it a successful catch. I don't want anyone to be able to just throw like Master Balls all over the place, right? That'd be silly. All right, so let's solve the problem of how we're going to get our canine here. You know what? We'll make a method real quick that allows me to get a starter Pokemon. How about that? So, for a trainer, let's make a method say def get starter and passes in a Pokemon. All right, when's the only time you can get a starter? You don't have any other Pokemon. You go to the little professor thing. It's your very first Pokemon. They're like, oh my god, here, take this Pokemon. So, the only time I want to catch with 100% success rate is when I want to get my starter. So I'm going to say if, and I can only do this if, I can't just get starters all over the place. I can do it at the very beginning of the game only. So if at Pokemon dot length is equal to 0. That's the only time that I can get a starter. So I don't have many Pokemon yet. So now I can call catch P. Now here's a fun little fact. Catch is a private method. So if I try to say self.catch, it doesn't work. If I can't use explicit self on private methods, because it's the same thing as if I would have tried to say Micah.catch out here in world. So if you're going to call private methods, you have to let Ruby implicitly put self, right? Because if you explicitly put self, it's the same thing as calling from the outside, and it doesn't let you do that. So the only time that it matters very much if you write explicit self or not is one, if you have another local variable with the same name as the method you want to call, and two is if you want to call a private method. Now the first case you have to put explicit self. The second case you can't. Okay? If you want to call a private method, you cannot put self dot. All right, very cool. So this should work, right? And we can test to make sure that it does, right? So what I can do is, let's save this. If I go to my world, let's make a new Pokemon. And Pokemon.new. And the type, we'll give it to be, I don't know, what's a cool one? I also like, I don't know, man. Ah, screw it, we're just going to say Pikachu. Alright, so we'll say Pikachu. So, I want my starter to be Arcanine. And I want to prove that, so we know catch won't work, we already got the error there. So get starter. Yeah, tell me how you like this this slower paced video too. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse than my normal one, so I'd like some feedback on that. Alright. So now this should fail the second time. I should only see P1. Getting a starter P2 should not work because it only calls catch if my length of my Pokemon 0. So this will prove that my little thing there worked fine. So let's go ahead and give it a shot. Run it real quick. Undefined method get starter for trainer. Get stator. God, this is gonna be happening a lot, I think. Not feeling good about my future here. Okay. Alright. Oh my goodness. Undefined method length for nil class. If at Pokemon, I swear to God, these spelling errors are just like killing me, guys. Alright. Third time's the charm. There we go. All right, here we go. So we said get starters, but we should only have Micah. Pokemon dot length should be only 1, and it is. And Micah dot Pokemon dot map to type should just be Arcanine. Where did that C come from? Where did it hit? I don't know where that happened. All right, Arcanine. There we go. Okay, perfect. So that works just great. So now we have a way to get a starter. We've stopped people from being able to catch with 100% accuracy because you can only call catch from inside other methods. And this is a great example, right? So we're using catch, our 100% catch method, only if the Pokemon length is 0 and you're getting a starter. We're going to use our catch method again in our public catch Pokemon method, only if our probability, right, says we should catch it. So let's do that one real quick. And this one's going to be a little bit fun. This one's going to be a little bit off the rails, and hopefully it's useful. This next thing we're going to do, I'm talking like I know what it is we're going to do. Basically, I want to make a little method that simulates like some sort of like probability-based catching algorithm, right? And I kind of want to show you guys that you guys know enough to do stuff like this, as long as you like stop and think and really figure your problem out. So I want it so I can catch a Pokemon, and based off like think about the things that make it easier to catch a Pokemon. It's gonna like if they have lower health, they're easier to catch. If they have a status condition issue, they're easier to catch. All right. We won't do the status thing now. We'll try to keep it a little bit simpler. But also, I'm pretty sure, like if you have a high team, it's easier to catch stuff. I'm not entirely sure, but we'll say experience plays something into it as well. So experience of the trainer, and and HP, health of the Pokemon, should play a role here. So we'll say every Pokemon starts off at HP equals, my goodness, equals on the other side. Now this is interesting because everyone has a different set. So we'll go ahead and just say, you know what? Let's do it in percentages. So we'll say 100, and that indicates 100%. And that way, we could have like a max HP per different type of Pokemon, right? That and we can talk about some cool inheritance stuff after this. I don't want to make this video go too long and do too much stuff that's like not the basics, but we can. So we'll see. We'll see how that works. All right. Anyway, let's do it. Talk about like different design avenues we could go as well, which will be fun. I'm gonna put a hard stop on this in like 10 minutes though, so won't do that much. And we haven't done that much anyway because my keyboard is very slow. Anyway, moving on. So, Pokemon, right? So we want to try to catch a Pokemon with a certain amount of probability. It's going to be based off how much HP they have. We'll add that to our accessor for now, so we can mess with it. All right, and let's just get to it. Def throw Pokeball at Pokemon. And I'll say, for now, let's just pretend all Pokeballs are created equal. We don't want to spend too much time like getting in the weeds here. But to show you guys that you can get a little bit in the weeds and still make it through. And once you do it this way, you can add more and get more in the weeds later. But so we want to say probability of catch equals, and let's say this. What should be the probability? Who should be in charge of calculating the probability of a catch? It definitely shouldn't be the individual trainer. It shouldn't be the individual Pokemon. So it should either be the trainer demigod or the Pokemon demigod. And it really could go either way. So at this point, it really could be either place. Let's go ahead and say it's the Pokemon, because the Pokemon are the ones actively being caught. So it'd be like, yes, the strength of the trainer plays into it, but at the end of the day, the Pokemons are kind of the ones being defeated or not defeated. So I think I would choose to put it in the Pokemon class, but that's completely arbitrary. I think you guys could put it either place and be fine. So, and I say this, but I'm not even explaining what it is I'm doing. Okay, so I want some sort of function that I can call that gives me the probability of catching. So I'm going to say Pokemon demigod. I put you in charge of calculating the probability a Pokemon will be caught. So I'm going to say calc catch probability. And right now, the only two things we're going to take into account are the trainer's experience and the Pokemon's HP. But I think if we pass in the trainer and the Pokemon as objects, it'll make it nice and flexible so we can use more aspects of them later. Now, we probably would want to put the ball in there eventually, but for now we're not going to do that. So we're even in my programming. Get starter, run away, set free, no, throw Pokeball. There we go. Okay. So as of right now, the information that Pokemon.calculate catch probability needs is the Pokemon and the trainer. I say self because I'm in the trainer class in an instance method. So this instance method has already been called on an individual trainer object, which means self is the same thing as that individual object. I'm passing that in to this calculation. And as of right now, I'm just going to pretend that method exists, right? It's going to give me a game plan moving forward, but right now the method exists, and let's say it returns some probability between 0 and 100%. So let's make this in comments. Returns some number between 0 and 100%. That's a dollar sign. There's a percentage sign. All right, cool. So the number 0 to 100%, right? That's actually the number. Which one is it? 3? Okay, there we go. That's actually the number between 0 and 1, right? Like 10% in reality is the number. What is 10% in real? My goodness. 0 to 1. Okay, thank you. All right, so 10% reality is actually the number. So if I say 10%, oh my goodness. Thank you for bearing with me through all this, guys. All right, 10% is actually the number 0.1, right? Because really 100% means 1, 0% means 0, and every number in between is interpolated. So 10%, like 0.1 is 10% of 1. So really we're going to return a number between 0 and 1 here, and that's going to represent 1/100th of the percent. So 100% would be a 1, 0% still a 0, 50% 0.5, etc., etc. All right. So we're going to get back that probability of a catch, and then we're going to say, random number is going to be equal to random dot new. Now random's given to us by Ruby, and I'm going to say dot rand on it. So I'm going to make a new random object. I'm going to call dot new to make an instance, and then call dot rand to get a random number, and this should spit out a number between 0 and 1. So I'm going to say if my random number is less than my probability of catch, all right, then I'm going to say catch that Pokemon. Otherwise, right, if I don't want to catch it, my goodness. If I don't want to catch it, deep breaths. Okay, if I don't want to catch it, otherwise, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go back. As much as I want to practice with this keyboard, I really just have to. I really just need my speed back. Okay, so if my random number is less than my probability of catch, I'm gonna catch it, right? And if I don't want to catch it, instead I'm going to say else, right? Else I'm gonna say puts. Oh no, the Pokemon broke free, right? Cool. I bet you I'm going to be really slow at this one too, because I'm halfway in between getting used to both of them. All right, so anyway, so this should work, right? So let's review what happened. So I get a probability of catch. I have some method that takes in my stats and say, okay, you have a 70%, let's say for example, 70% probability of catching this thing. That manifests as a return value of 0.7. Then I get a random number between 0 and 1. All right. So if this told me I had a 70% chance of catch, that means if my random number is between 0 and 0.7, I'm going to say that counts as a catch. If it's greater than 0.7, I'm going to count it not as a catch, right? So if I have a 99% chance of a catch, right, as long as my number is between 0 and 0.99, it's a catch. The only way it would not be a catch if I got like 0.9999, okay? If I had a 2% or like a 20% chance of a catch, right, that means that my random number I get here has to be between 0 and 0.2. So it's a lot less likely it's going to be in that range, right? So basically I say what's the, what I'm basically doing here, right, is, where's the zoom bar? Oh, I'm not on zoom, which means I can't even annotate. I can't draw stuff on my screen. Ooh, this might be a deal breaker. All right, well, I don't know what to do for this. All right, well, I was going to draw stuff, but I can't, so I guess I won't. Trying to think of like a different solution. Can't think of one. All right, well, pretend like, oh my goodness. Okay, so here, let's try this. So here's is 0%. Okay. Here's 50%. Here's 100%. So if I say the probability, where was this thing? Okay, the catch probability was right here at 30%. So if the probability of the catch is right here at 30%, I'm saying that if my random number that I get, if this is anywhere in this range, right here, I'm going to count it as a catch, which makes sense, right? 0 to 0.3, that's 30% of the probabilities, right? Very cool. if I get a catch probability of 80%, so let's say right here is 80%, that means that my random number anywhere in this range counts as a catch, right? So that makes sense, right? So all I'm doing is I'm saying what's the probability that I'll get a catch. Then I'm getting a complete random number, right? And if this random distribution is inside of the probability that I was going to get that catch, I count it as a catch, right? So if there's an 80% chance of a catch, that means all of the numbers, 80% of the numbers and the random possibilities I get should encompass 80% of and that 80% encompassment should be counted as a catch. If there's only a 1% chance I get that catch down here, right? I only want 1% of the possible numbers I'm going to get to actually count as a catch. So I say, okay, the only way I'm going to count that as a catch if it's the number I get back is 0.01 01 or less. If it's anywhere else between 0 and 1, it's not a catch, right? So this is basically like you go up against a high-level Pokemon, and you just throw the ball right away, and it's just like a normal Pokeball. You have a very low probability of catching that Pokemon. Now, that you do have that small chance, but not very likely, right? So that's what we're doing here. So to make this work, all we need to do now is call this, or make this, Pokemon.calculate catch probability. It takes in the Pokemon and the trainer. So I'm going to save this. Right, I'm going to go over to my Pokemon, def, and self dot, calculate, what was it called? Calc what? Catch probability. Oh my goodness, I am slow at this now. You know what, I'm going back to the new stuff. I'm just going to keep at it till it's better, so you guys just have to suck it up, I'm sorry. Alright, so, calculate catch probability. I'm going to calculate this catch probability. I'm going to get in the Pokemon and the trainer, I believe. Okay, I believe in that order. Pokemon and trainer. Yep, very cool. And then I'm going to say, all right, so I'm getting the Pokemon and the trainer. And I'm going to say, okay, so how do I want to make this decision? Let's do some more pseudocode. All right, if, actually, you know what? No, not pseudocode for this. Let's think about it. I'm going to say that the trainers, oh, we also want to take the Pokemon's level. That would be a big deal. Let's add that. Very cool. Say every Pokemon's made at level 1. My goodness. My goodness. Stop and think, dude. Stop and think. 1. All right. At level equals 1. Perfect. So, let's say that let's say for now, I don't want to make this too complicated, but I also want to because I want to make it understandable, but I also want to make it like so it actually works. Let's say experience. Right, here we go. I like this. So let's go ahead and set some actual values to experience so they mean something. So I'm going to say beginner. And actually, let's do the newer version of hashes. Beginner. So these are going to be hashes. Beginner is going to have a value of 0. We're going to say intermediate. It's going to have a value of 1. We're going to say beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's going to have a value of 2. And then master. What did I say my experience was? Expert. Let's do expert and master. Expert is going to have a value of 3. And master is going to have a value of 4. Okay. Very cool. So now, when I get my experience in, all right, as long as it's one of these guys here, I can get a value associated with it. Okay. So it's kind of on the user to make sure it's right. I can write some code around it to make sure that this is right, but we're not going to just do that now. We can do that at a later time. There's just so much stuff to dive into. I just don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. All right, so we did that. We have HP and level. So let's say let's say our let's see here. Let's say that the highest percentage. So we want to associate our experience with the level of our Pokemon. I wish I had the thing so I could draw, because I think this would definitely need a drawing. A master should be able to should be kind of evened out with a Pokemon at level 100. So it can get up to 100% catch, not 100%, but let's say like high 90s catch rate at 100. I kind of like the idea that, yeah, let's say that the master, in relation to the level of the Pokemon, sets a maximum catch percentage. So like, if you're a beginner or an intermediate, like if you're a beginner, like if the Pokemon level is above like 5, your max catch is just going to be really low. Like the max percentage you can get is going to be like 5% or something like that. Intermediate, like same thing. If they're like 20, it's like if they're above 20, you have a very, very low catch rate. And same thing. But master should be like any level. So can we put that in equation? I don't want to do logic. I'd rather do math here. Let me pause real quick and just think some stuff out so you're not like watching me hem and haw. So give me a second. All right, cool. All right, sorry about that, guys. I also took a little bit of a break, but I think I came up with something. I also think I had a little epiphany on the fact that I can actually use Zoom. Just because I'm not recording with Zoom doesn't mean I can't use Zoom. So let me go ahead and just make a new meeting and get my whiteboard on screen. All right, let's talk about what we want here. All right, so I came up with like this little silly equation real quick. It's probably not the best way to do it, but we're going to make it work. And then we're going to go. We might talk about inheritance real quick, but I have a lot of things to do tonight, and it's a lot later than I thought it was going to be. All right, so here we go. We want something that indicates a catch rate. So there's actually this really nifty equation. Let me clear this. Okay, it's a nifty equation, right? The equation is y equals 1 minus e to the minus x. And it looks kind of like this. And it has an infinite asymptote at 1 here. And basically what I want to do is use this to my advantage. All right, so because it goes from 0 to 1 and it grows like this is a nice little curve where I can just pick a number on the curve, and that'll be the catch rate. So I want to use my variables that I have here to try to make to mold this equation to something that sounds right, and then use it to get a good catch rate. So right now, if I use the equation, let's see what I wrote down here. All right, so if I say y equals 1 minus e to the minus 0.3x, what that looks like is that thing we talked about, so from 0 to 1. And what the minus 0.3 does is makes it grow a lot slower. So it turns out that the value 100 right here is around at about 0.95. So this is great because I can actually correspond this to the HP and how much HP have they lost, right? So if they've lost, so basically this value, this X value, I could make be 100 minus their HP percentage currently. And that'll be how much HP they've lost. So this is nice. So if they're down to like 1 HP, that's sitting there nice at like a 94% success rate. If they're at 100, you're down here at like, or like 99, you're down here at like a 1% success rate. All right, probably not pretty good. And what we might do just to make sure there's always a percentage that's never at 0, we might add this whole thing by like 0.01 or something like that. Just to give you the teeniest, tiniest amount. If you throw that Pokeball right away, you might get it. All right, that's cool. But how are we going to talk about experience, right? So if this guy's a level 100, we don't want a beginner to be able to get a 95%, 94% catch rate by throwing a ball, even if he does get him down to 1%, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to penalize or help other people based on their experience. So it turns out that we have 4 experience levels. I think we have 4. If we don't, we're going to make 4. Actually, we had 5. So let's change my algorithm a little bit, but it'll still work, I think. So 0. It turns out that if I multiply hold on, let's see. Yeah, okay, we'll do this. We'll do 5, and then we'll multiply it by 25. Okay, this will be good. So if I multiply all these numbers by 25, I get a number span 0, 25, 50, 75, 100. Okay, and this is a good mapping of my experience level to the Pokemon levels above which I should start getting penalized, right? So if I'm a beginner, all right, maybe I'll add like 5 to these numbers, but if I'm a beginner, right, maybe if I'm a beginner, I should really get penalized for any level. Why not? So I should never have a 95% catch rate. So what I want to do is I want to take this whole curve and I want to shift it down if I'm working with a Pokemon that's above my skill level. So yes, and will that give us possibly negative probabilities down here? Yeah, it will, but we'll never get a random number that's negative, so it's just basically a 0% probability. So it'll shift my curve down depending on how much stronger the Pokemon is. And also, I kind of want to shift up if I'm way stronger than the Pokemon, if I'm an expert and I'm dealing with like a level whatever. And then, at some point I'm definitely going to catch it no matter what, right? So the way I'm going to do that, if I want to shift up or shift down, well, actually, no, it won't be shifting. I lied to you guys. It'd actually be squishing, or now we could shift if we subtracted by something. Actually, we might end up doing that. I kind of like the shifting. All right, we do have two options. I'm going to make the decision here as I talk through it. So we can either shift, which is doing exactly what I just did, or we can squish, which is multiplying by. So I can either subtract by something and shift that up or down, or I can multiply by something and basically squish it. So like make it so the max value could ever be this or this, basically like that. Now the difference is down in these low regions, you're still not doing too much difference. This will give you a definite loss, and up here you're starting with, if you throw a Pokeball right away, you're starting with a much better. Actually, yeah, I like shifting because like if you're an expert and you throw a Pokeball and you haven't even touched the little guy, you should still be able to catch him. I think that's good. Okay, cool. So we'll do some shifting instead. So basically, I'm going to subtract by. I'm going to say I'm going to penalize you for every level that Pokemon is that is greater. And that's not an absolute value V. That's LVL, stands for level. Okay, that's my variable. All right, LVL. So every level that's greater than 25 times your experience number. All right, for every level that's greater than 25 times your experience number. So for a beginner, that's any level whatsoever. For level 2 here, if I am battling a level 60, that's going to be 10 levels above. So that's 10 times, or 10 minus 25 times 2. So, sorry, 60 minus 25 times 2, so 60 minus 50, which is a 10. So I want to penalize him 10 units. And what's a good unit? Well, let's say 0.01. So that'll shift down the probability. 10 times 0.01 is 0.1. So I'll shift down. That's a 10% reduction in probability across the board of catching this guy. All right, so I'm shifting you down 10%. I think that's pretty good. If you're intermediate and you're trying to do level 60, I could like multiply it by 0.02. That would be a 20% reduction at that point. I think that's good. So we'll do that. All right, let's write our whole equation out then. Our whole equation is going to be y, which is my probability to catch a Pokemon, is equal to 1 minus e to the minus 0.3, and I'll say HP, where HP is the variable that stands for the hit points taken by the Pokemon, how much damage has it done. And then I think I added everything by 0.01 just so I could have that 1% chance if they haven't done any damage to it, and it's within my if it's like at the level that I'm able to go at. And then I'm going to subtract, I'm going to penalize, I'm going to shift down for every level that it's greater than 25 times my experience. I'm going to shift it down 0.02, a 2% decrease per level. And that's good, right? Does that look right? I think that looks right. Okay. And notice too, this works the other way, right? So if I'm an expert and I can go up to a level 100 and I'm trying to catch like a level 1, right? I'm going to subtract 100 minus, the level. I'm going to say 1 minus 25 times my experience, which is 100, times 0.02. So that's going to be, I'm not going to say 99 times because I can't do that in my head. So let's pretend that's approximately negative 100 times 0.02, which is approximately negative 2. So I'm going to be subtracting negative 2, which is the same as adding 2, right? So I'm actually 100. So that might be a little bit big because oh, that's literally like, that's going to be 100% across the board. I'm always going to catch it at level 1, no matter what. And that's fine. That's fine functionality. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Cool. I wanted to delete it. Oh, I didn't write it down. It's fine. I can figure it out. Okay, let's write it down in our code. Let's do this with code. All right. Why am I trying to take out my other keyboard? I'm going to stick with the new one and make you guys suffer with me here. I know this isn't really like object relationship anymore, but again, I like to show you guys like fun stuff that you can do. So I said the equation that I want is y equals, and it was 1 minus e to the, nope, e to the minus 0.3 times HP. Okay, and that was all plus, wrong button, all that was plus 0.01, and then I said I wanted to subtract the level of the Pokemon minus 25 times my experience, alright, and all of that times 0.02. I think that's going to be a good little equation. And you know what? Let's actually, you know what I was going to say, let's like go to an online graphing thing, but I don't want to focus on this. I just want to show you guys you can do math and solve cool problems with code, right? So let's do it. All right, so let's do it with code. So I need my math, and I think it's math E. So I'm going to say, all right, so calculate catch probability. I get my P, I get my T. All right, I think I have everything I need. So I'm going to say return. Let's say return 1 minus math E, I believe is right. Is that right? Let's look it up. Why not? Ruby math E. Could just like approximate its value, but whatever. Let's just get it if we can. Yeah, mathematical constant E as a float number. I think it's just a constant with capital E. I think I was right. There it is. Yep. E and pi are my two constants in the math module. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to say math E, and I'm going to say times, or sorry, to the power of, I'm going to put this in parentheses, 2 minus 0.3 times, and now we're going to say P, and now, okay, now the HP of the Pokemon. The HP of the Pokemon is 100 minus, so this is that HP damage taken already, so we're going to say 100 minus its current HP. So the 100 minus the current HP is the amount of damage it's taken, which is what we're doing here. So we're going to say 1 minus e to the minus 0.3 times the amount of damage it's taken. All of this plus 0.01. All of this minus the Pokemon's level minus, so we're going to take the level minus the trainer dot, here we go. We're going to say the trainer demigod, no, the trainer demigod, experience constant, and I'm going to look up the value because that trainer experience is a constant, it's a hash. I'm going to look up the value based off of that current trainer's experience. So the key of the current trainer's experience, okay, it's called experience, right? Yeah. So the key of the current trainer's experience, the value of that will be the numerical association. Cool. And that times 25. That's what I said. return math e to the minus 0.3 times 100 minus the Pokemon HP plus that that little 1% possibility no matter what. Well, not no matter what, given that you don't have reductions for level, but and then we are doing a reduction of 0. So all this needs to be multiplied by. So a reduction of 0.02 per level difference of from your experience. All right, this is very like whatever. It's if I wanted to do a game ready equation, just take a lot of messing around with. But I think this might be good enough for now. So let's wrap this up real quick because I'm starting to feel like I probably should have just talked about inheritance instead. But whatever. All right, so alrighty, so I'm in my throw Pokeball. All right, calculate catch probability. Very cool. So let's go ahead and just put a binding pry right here. Let's make sure my catch probability looks good and so nothing's crazy is happening. So I'm an expert, and Arcanine's coming in at level 1, so we're expecting extremely high catch probability, and we'll mess around with that. Let's make sure the Pokemon can get the level set. Yeah, let's go ahead and add that here so I can mess around with stuff. Make sure it works. All right. All right. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to my world. Get starter. Okay, so that we know that doesn't work. And so let's go ahead and try to say, so Pikachu, I couldn't get him, but the get starter because the array was not empty, so it didn't allow me. So I'm going to say Micah.throw. Actually, yeah. Was it throw Pokeball? Yep. I'm going to throw my Pokeball at Pikachu. And I should hit my Binding Pry, and then we should see what happens. Let's try it. I have 2 Binding Pries in there, one at the bottom. So that one's not going to hit until after I throw my Pokeball. So, just for the record. So the one of hitting the Pokeball should hit first, unless I have an error, which I probably do somewhere, honestly. Especially with this new keyboard, which I keep making the excuse for all my problems. All right, look at that. No error. All right, so I hit my Binding Pry. So let's check what the probability of catch is. And we're expecting it to be very high because I'm an expert in throwing a Pokeball at a level 1. Yeah, okay, 150% chance of catch. All right, so I'm guaranteed that my random.new.rand will be less than that, right? Yeah, which I would have caught that even if I had a relatively low. And I can see that if I keep running this random value thing, right? See how it's always numbers between 0 and 1? So this will be a nice little, this will work really well. Let's go ahead and exit from this. And let's go ahead and say, P2's level. Let's make that, oops. P2's level, right? Let's go ahead and make that equal to like 80. And now let's try Micah.throw Pokeball at P2. All right. Probability. Okay, yeah, cool. Colon Q, thanks. Probability of catch. Uh-oh. What happened? Did I spell it wrong? I did spell it wrong. God. Gosh darn it. All right. Catch. All right, so I got a negative here. So, and I think that's because I'm an expert. So I definitely will never catch Pikachu. I'm an expert. And this would be a negative 9% possibility. I'm an expert who, which means that my max level is around 75. I shouldn't have been penalized that much. Oh, but he is at 100%. Oh, he's at 100%. Okay, that makes sense. His HP is 100%, so he's already starting me off at like 1% chance. So I did get that, yeah. So we gave the 1% little like, hey, if he's completely healthy, you're good. But I also got pinged because he's a higher level than I should have. He's at level, what I make him, a level 80. And the highest level I should be working with here is 75. So let's go ahead and bring his HP down and see if that works for us. Oh, yeah, exit from that pry. So let's say P2. Yeah, the Pokemon broke free. Perfect. P2.HP. And of course, I wouldn't make HP directly accessible, right? That wouldn't make any sense because people would just be doing this all the time. But 50, or yeah, 50. Now let's run that again. See what happens. And colon Q. All right, look at that. So if I brought him down, so this isn't a perfect equation, but I brought his HP down to 50%. Now, yeah, he's a few levels higher than I should be messing with, but now I have a relatively high percentage to catch him because he's at 50%. It looks like having like a 91% chance to catch. It's a little high again. This isn't a perfect equation, but you can see that we just have to tweak it a bit to get something that we'd want. So I'll say exit and see if we caught it. Yeah, and we caught it. All right, cool, very cool. All right, so that's all we're gonna do there. All right, we're done with this. We're not gonna tweak this until it's like perfect, but it does have the basic workings of what we wanted. Cool. So and see that's the fun of coding, right? You can really do anything you want. It's pretty cool. Get rid of this. All right, last thing, right? Um, real quick, and I don't know how much of this I'm gonna do, but it'd be kind of cool to like use some inheritance here, so I don't have to have like there's so much complexity. It would be hard to know what to do. Honestly, I would even consider making a uh, a class for every single Pokemon, have them all inherit from the Pokemon class, right? Because every Pokemon starts off with its base stats. Those are all different. It's gonna have a bunch of different stuff. I'd probably make a module for like it's for all the things that all Pokemon share, like all Pokemon have a temperament now, right? All that good stuff. So I'm not going to do that now, but you could definitely think about how you could use subclassing and modules to really reduce the complexity of your individual classes and make a really cool ecosystem. So if you have the time in your head, it's a challenge I have for you, right? So something just to give you an idea. I might do like we could even do something like this. I could say touch um, fire Pokemon.rb. Okay, and fire Pokemon. First of all, let's add it here. Okay, so I'll save this and go to fire Pokemon class fire Pokemon, and it inherits from Pokemon. So now the fire Pokemon gets everything the Pokemon gets, right? All the same stuff, except in its initialize method. First of all, we want it to take in the same. We want it to be identical to if I were to create a Pokemon, right? So we'll have the initialize take the same stuff here. Copy that over. All right, but oops. Now, the first thing we want to do is call the Pokemon's initialize method and pass in all the stuff that we just got. So we get all these instance variables set, just like if they were making a Pokemon. But now we have more stuff to do, right? A fire Pokemon probably needs something like this. At weaknesses equals let's say like water. I think that's it. Well, maybe ground, right? And strength or strong against, right? Stuff like this. So anyway, like you see what I'm doing here. So now like this will work just like a normal Pokemon, but it has more information, right? Uh, so strong against grass and what else is strong against? Fire is good against. I don't know, dude. Steel, right? I don't know. I forget. Anyway, we probably work on that. So now I have more information. My fire Pokemon has stuff that my Pokemon doesn't, right? So attribute accessors, I can add. Oops. Weaknesses. Right. So now I can factor in this information, right? I can put numbers around this information like I did with the catch probability to like make battling accurate, right? And I could check to see if it's one of the weaknesses, reduce or increase the damage by 2 times or whatever it is that it does, right? So this is how we start doing cool stuff. So when I go to my world and I instantiate Arcanine, I really want to instantiate a fire Pokemon.new. And the important thing to note here is that it keeps all the same stuff it could do as a Pokemon because fire Pokemon inherits from Pokemon. It just gets more stuff now. So if I run this now, Ruby world.rb, right? Now I can say P1 is a fire Pokemon now, not just a Pokemon. Now P1 has a type just like it did before, right? P1 has an HP just like it did before, just like a Pokemon. However, P1 also now has weaknesses, water and ground, right? And then I could even go farther. If I did end up wanting to subclass, I want a class for every single Pokemon because they all have their individual stats that need to be programmed in. They maybe gain experience differently, depending on how complex I want to do it. I could then have, eventually down the road another file called Arcanine, class of Arcanine, right? Inherits from Fire Pokemon, which in turn inherits from Pokemon. So Arcanine is going to get everything that a Fire Pokemon has. Fire Pokemon is going to get everything that a Pokemon has, right? So this is pretty cool. So now this one would have a def initialize, right? And you don't have to do it this way. Like obviously you don't want to have. It would suck to have like 500 classes, which is what would happen if you made a class for every Pokemon. But if you're making a very complex game where every individual is like very different in the way that they act, it might be the way to go, right? Obviously we don't need to take in the type because we know it. So Arcanine just needs a name and gender. Because when we call super here, right, we're going to say super. So I'm going to call the fire Pokemon's initialize method. That's what super does. It calls the class, it calls the parent object or class's method with the exact same name. So I'm going to call the parent initialize method. We know that the type is Arcanine, right, because this is Arcanine. So we're going to say Arcanine. We just hard code that in. And then I'm going to pass in name and gender. Right? And then I'm going to say, okay, so I think that's good. And of course, we would give Arcanine the stats specific to that breed of Pokemon, but let's just see what happens if I say P1 equals Arcanine.new. And now it doesn't take in the type anymore. It's going to take in a name and a gender. So let's call it Griffin, my dog's name. And he is a boy. Say male. All right. All right, so P1 is now an Arcanine object, right? And again, like this isn't how you would have to do it. It's up to you. P1.name has Griffin. Now that came from the Pokemon, right? It's the Pokemon that defines that name. Where are we? Yeah, Pokemon defines that name. All of these things are from the Pokemon, even though I'm in a Arcanine class because I'm inheriting from Fire Pokemon. Fire Pokemon inherits from, Pokemon. I get at name, right? I get dot name from the Pokemon. I'm going to get weaknesses from the Fire Pokemon. Oops. P1.weaknesses. I'm going to get the weaknesses from the Fire Pokemon. Right? And then, but the class itself is still Arcanine, right? So anything specific to that class I would get as well. So I get all three. Strong against. Okay, very cool. P1.type. That's from Pokemon, right? So it's very cool. So that's a cool way to do stuff. Challenge yourselves, not required, but I do think that OOP is a underexplored topic in here, unfortunately, because you can spend so much time doing it. OOP is something that probably gets hit a lot harder in colleges than we hit it here, while we do a lot more actual web development and working with databases and stuff. So I do like to try to fill in the gaps there. So a little more of a I want to show you a little bit more of what they're doing, right? Because if I can bridge the gap, like, because we have strengths as boot camp grads, and they have strengths as a 4-year bachelor CS grad. So if I can help bridge that gap between you and them on their side, and keep your strengths, now you're probably going to get the job over them, which is ideal, right? So that's kind of why I do some of this stuff. Sorry for the slow typing. Sorry for the typos. And hopefully this was helpful to some extent. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.